we cannot ignore the fact that irrespective of the method used, anemia continues to be a severe public health concern, especially in some of the vulnerable groups, including children who are less than 5 years of age, adolescent girls, women of reproductive age, pregnant women and lactating women. For these groups, it is a problem and it's a pressing need where we need to find solution.
Hello and welcome to ICMR Radio. Ever felt drained, struggling to focus, or simply too weak to get through the day? For millions, this is not just plain simple fatigue. It's actually life with anemia. It affects children, it affects adolescents and pregnant women the most. And it holds people back from living what could be a full, normal, happy, robust, healthy life. But there is good news. With smarter diagnostics, better treatment and stronger community action, things are changing. The Indian Council of Medical Research, the ICMR, is leading the way, taking India closer to an Anaemia Mukt Bharat. Yes, as you've guessed, that's the topic of today's conversation on ICMR Radio. My name is Anubha Bhonsle and I'm being joined today by someone who's leading India's fight against anemia and is a key architect of the Anaemia Mukt Bharat campaign, Dr. Bharati Kulkarni. She's the director at the ICMR's National Institute of Nutrition in Hyderabad. Thank you so much for joining us and sparing time for this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're looking forward to a great conversation, and I think I want to just start with a sense check of sorts. You know, what's the challenge at hand? How big is the challenge? And is there anything that we should concentrate on in terms of either geography or demographics?
Anemia continues to be one of the most pressing public health concerns in India. World Health Organization classifies anemia severity of the public health problem if the prevalence of anemia is more than 40% in a particular age group. So we see that year after year, multiple rounds of National Family Health Survey data show us that anemia continues to be a severe public health concern in case of children who are less than 5 years of age, adolescent girls, women of reproductive age, pregnant women and lactating women. If we see the data from the recent round of National Family Health Survey, which was conducted during 2019 to 21, we see that 2 in 3 children were anemic, 67% prevalence of anemia. Prevalence of anemia was almost 60% in adolescent girls and 57% in women of reproductive age, around 50% in pregnant women and lactating women also 60%. So this is a serious problem. Prevalence of anemia is relatively lower in children who are 5 to 9 years of age and also in boys and men, but still 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 adolescent boys or men continue to have anemia. There have been some concerns about the methodology used for hemoglobin estimation in National Family Health Survey, which uses the point of care device with finger prick sample. So there is a possibility that there is some amount of overestimation happening. Overestimation happening in National Family Health Survey data. However, the another survey, which was led by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, called Comprehensive National Nutrition Survey, which covered children from 1 year to 19 years of age, also showed that prevalence of anemia in under 5 children was around 40%. In case of adolescent girls, it was 40%.
You know, Dr. Kulkarni, it may seem basic, but why does anemia persist? And what is the long-term impact of, let's say, untreated anemia, especially when it comes to the groups that you're talking about or vulnerable population groups, so to speak?
So, in case of women and adolescent girls, they have higher requirements of iron because they lose blood every month during menstruation. So, these are vulnerable groups. In case of children who are under 5 years of age, they are growing very rapidly. So, they have higher requirements for their growth and development. But anemia continues to be there primarily because lack of enough iron, which is absorbable and available in the body. So, our diets play a major role. Our diets have to be diverse, our diets have to have adequate amount of nutrients such as not just iron, it's vitamin B12, it is folic acid, vitamin A, as well as other nutrients which are important for hemoglobin synthesis. Apart from that, load of infections which is quite rampant, especially in the low income group populations where adequate water, sanitation and hygiene facilities are not available, access to health care is inadequate, load of infectious diseases is higher. That also contributes to anemia, because when a person has infection, the body is not able to absorb iron which is available from the food, because it is also needed by the bacteria. So, it is a requirement of the body to reduce iron absorption in these conditions. So, poor quality diets, infections which cause persistent inflammation are some of the important causes of anemia. In addition, in case of women, if they have heavy menstrual bleeding and they lose blood more than what they should, I think that's also one of the important causes of anemia.
Dr. Kulkarni, would it be fair to say that women and girls are sort of disproportionately impacted by anemia?
Yes, that is true. Women and girls are disproportionately affected, and that is seen across the geographies, across the world. And it's more of a biological phenomenon. Because of menstruation, women lose blood, and that's the reason their requirements are higher. In case of men, they are more protected. Also, this factor is not there, and also because they have higher muscle mass, which is one of the stimulants for hemoglobin synthesis. So, that's the reason women and girls are more vulnerable. And if a woman has anemia, she goes into pregnancy in anemic stage, and during pregnancy the requirements of all the nutrients are even higher, because she has to support the growing fetus as well. And if the woman is anemic during pregnancy, the baby which is born is usually turns out to be either preterm or low birth weight, and such babies have low stores of iron in their body when they start their life. And these children are again more vulnerable, because their stores are low, their requirements are higher, and they land up being anemic children. During growth also, if this persists, this becomes an intergenerational cycle of malnutrition as well as anemia. It's the same principle holds there. So,
I mean, just to clarify, so untreated anemia has a long-term impact that can go intergenerational across these vulnerable groups that you have spoken about. Okay, which brings us to the point, how do we treat anemia?
Because it is intergenerational cycle, you can intervene at any stage or every stage rather to break the cycle, and that is the reason Anaemia Mukt Bharat program focuses on all life stages which are important. So, the interventions which are chalked out in Anaemia Mukt Bharat strategy include 6x6x6 strategy. So, 6 groups include under 5 children, children in the age group of 5 to 9 years, adolescent boys and girls, women of reproductive age, pregnant women and lactating women. And there is also 6 interventions which are recommended as a part of this Anaemia Mukt Bharat strategy, which include prophylactic iron folate supplementation to the vulnerable groups where the anemia prevalence is very high. Additionally, we need to screen individuals for anemia and offer adequate treatment. So, that is another aspect where Anaemia Mukt Bharat strategy focuses. There is also deworming, because if the worm infestation is there, it reduces iron absorption. So, that is also one of the causes. So, there is deworming. There is also very strong component of behavior change communication, because after all our behaviors end up in all the aspects related to diet, water, sanitation, hygiene, access to health care. So, there is a very strong component of behavior change communication there. Healthy diets, your nutritional requirements are important. Also, there are some specific issues such as cord clamping when the baby is born, and if you delay the clamping of the cord, so there is some additional blood flow from the mother to the baby, which has protective impact on the baby prevention of anemia. So, these are some of the interventions which are a part of Anaemia Mukt Bharat strategy.
Right. It's a full stack, it's a comprehensive strategy.
Yes.
It's almost targeting each of these groups, is there greater efficacy of some of these measures for some age groups? If you sort of looked at young girls at reproductive age, and if you tackle this problem there on, then at least, you know, the future generations that come from there would possibly not have anemia. Is there greater efficacy of targeting this at some stage more than the other?
That's true. I believe that targeting under 5 children is extremely important because they are growing in terms of not their physical growth but also cognitive growth. So, iron deficiency in early childhood has an impact on cognition, and I think that is a foundation of the future life.
lives.
So, that's very important. Second, adolescent girls, again it is very important to correct anemia during adolescence, because then they are able to meet their full growth potential, and then they will grow up as healthy women. And if a woman is healthy at the time of before conception, there is little chance that she becomes anemic, and even if she becomes anemic during pregnancy, it will be a milder grade of anemia. Whereas if the woman enters pregnancy with anemia, there is a very high chance that she will have moderate or severe anemia, which have much more grave consequences, and sometimes it could be life threatening, because the women who have severe anemia also have very severe postpartum hemorrhage. So, this could be sometimes life threatening. So, it is very important that at least adolescent girls, women of reproductive age, pregnant women and young children get adequate treatment of anemia, so that we have a future generation which is healthy and productive.
We gave a sense of what life with anemia could look like, but sometimes, you know, those symptoms can be really a part of what is modern life, fatigue, etc. But I think it will be interesting for our viewers to know what life with anemia actually feels like, looks like, how it impacts sort of your daily relationships, how you turn up at the workforce, for instance.
That's true. Actually, people who have anemia tend to sort of ignore or normalize the symptoms, because there is fatigue, there is tiredness, there is lack of focus or concentration, but many a times these get ignored because of, like, these are considered as like normal or routine lives, right? That's the reason. And also there is a part of, like, our body tries to cope up with the lower hemoglobin levels. So, symptoms become obvious only when the anemia becomes severe. So, it is very important to screen and identify the individuals who are anemic and treat them, because many a times these individuals do not feel the symptoms till they become severe, and then the recovery takes much longer, and the adverse impacts are much more if the anemia is of moderate or severe proportions. So, it is very important that we have screening, and it is not that difficult to have screening of, say, all children to when the academic year starts. So, those kind of interventions, I know that there are some examples where these have been implemented very, very successfully. So.
Under Anaemia Mukt Bharat, I mean, is there concentration also on detection and on screening of anemia?
Yes, I think that's one major improvement or strengthening of the program, I would say, that there is improved uptake and reach of screening, and that people have now realized that regular screening is required. Till recent times it was more restricted to pregnant women, because pregnant women is a group which accesses healthcare, and there is now very well known sort of practice in healthcare system that when the woman comes for the first time for her antenatal checkup, her hemoglobin is tested and the woman gets iron folate tablet. It has become a norm now, but it is not so for, say, under 5 children. There is very little recognition that under 5 children also have high prevalence of anemia, which can have grave consequences, and there has to be regular screening of the children and appropriate treatment if they are found to have anemia. Similarly, for school children, there is a program called weekly iron folate supplementation, but it gives 1 tablet every week to all boys and girls, but then it is not specified that this is not enough for recovery from anemia. It may help, prevention of anemia in those who are not anemic to start with, but it's not enough for recovery of anemia of individuals who are anemic. So, the screening and now the efforts are being strengthened on that front.
We've been given to believe that there are now sort of digital screening tools that are available that are minimally invasive in that sense and possibly could improve the uptake.
Digital hemoglobinometers or minimally invasive tools are becoming more popular because you need to just have a finger prick and a drop of blood, and like a glucometer you get the hemoglobin estimate immediately, which is very useful for a frontline worker to identify anemia and then provide counseling or like refer to a health system. So, these have been in place for some time. There are some concerns and some inaccuracies reported, but however, as a screening tool they are still valuable, because a screening tool is initial assessment, and if you find that this person requires a referral, this helps in avoiding an anemic individual going undetected and landing up with severe anemia.
Would what are called hemoglobinometers also come under the same category of digital screening tools that are non-invasive?
There are two types of hemoglobinometers. One are minimally invasive, where you need a drop of blood through a finger prick. And the non-invasive are, as the name suggests, where you don't require any pricking. So, either from the nail bed or skin color, so using light sensors, there is identification of approximate estimation of hemoglobin. There are also some efforts ongoing to look at the conjunctiva and using phone devices and using artificial intelligence tool to estimate hemoglobin. Actually, we are not still there so that they can be deployed in the public health settings. But the way artificial intelligence is progressing, so we hope that we will be able to achieve required level of precision and accuracy in the next few years.
Yeah, and that would come really handy when it comes to this younger age group,
yes.
right?
I think that will be a game changer, because if you are able to screen large populations with hemoglobin estimation, and if you are able to repeat hemoglobin estimates to see the response to treatment or non-response to treatment and identify more precise methods of treating, I think that will be something very helpful.
What about interventions like the intravenous iron therapies? Again, I think there's conversation about them showing promise, especially when it comes to sort of addressing iron deficiencies in pregnant women. Do you see this changing the course of maternal and child health?
Yes, I think certainly it is promising. Your intravenous injectable solutions such as FCM or ferric carboxymaltose, they have been shown to be effective, and you require a single dose instead of iron sucrose, which needs to be given in multiple doses.
Traditionally, what would the treatment of anemia
It could go on for say 1.5 months to 2 months. So, sometimes it requires 3 months also. So, here I think these are useful, and they are it's recommended that women who have moderate to severe anemia in the second trimester of pregnancy should get it. Our Ministry of Health and Family Welfare recent guidelines are recommending this, because you tend to spend more time with oral iron, and many times in the pregnant woman sort of time is not available, whereas with intravenous iron you get quicker replenishment of hemoglobin, and that's the reason this has been recommended. And I think if it used in a targeted manner, it will be really life saving, and fewer women will go in labor without severe anemia, which can sometimes be life threatening.
And then it obviously, as you've explained to us, has then an impact on the child that's born, etc. To a response to an earlier question, you spoke about behavioral change, because anemia is as much a behavioral change problem as it is a nutrition or a sanitation or an economic status problem. Considering millions of young girls and women face anemia, why has awareness about this been so low? And perhaps there's an example of a strategy of behavioral change communication or outreach that in your experience has actually worked.
You are right. I think women and girls tend to ignore or normalize anemia. Partly also because if 1 in 2 girls or women have anemia, it's seen as a common phenomenon. And also the symptoms are not like, unless you have severe anemia, you may not have a lot of symptoms. And that's the reason it gets ignored. And also many times women and girls are hesitant to take iron folate tablets because these tablets have mild adverse effects. And if women are counseled that these adverse effects such as gastric irritation or some small problems such as black stools are going to be transient, and I think the benefits are much more than these minor adverse issues. I think if that counseling is strengthened, then we have seen in our experience that compliance improves. Whereas if the counseling is not given along with these medications, the compliance is seen to be low, and poor compliance to iron folate supplements continues to be a pressing concern, because we know that there is an easy treatment available and this problem can be cured, but compliance is very low because you need to have those tablets for 3 months, 2 to 3 months, and day after day taking the tablet when many a times you do not have any symptoms, but your report says that you are anemic. So that level of motivation many a times we do not find. So we require some behavior change. Communication is extremely important. It can be through peers or women who gather together as a part of self-help groups. It could be interventions through frontline workers. So all these need to be instituted, but at the end of the day, I feel it should be like a people's movement. Like people should consider this a serious problem and understand the consequences, which are not apparent immediately, but have long-term consequences. Because we know that as per the Niti Aayog report, anemia leads to loss of GDP by 1.2% per annum. So, and if people know that if untreated anemia in a young child or in a school going children can reduce the cognitive potential or economic potential in later life, I think there will be more awareness. So these efforts are ongoing. Still, I think there is a long way to go. Yes.
It's such an important point that you make, that anemia, yes, impacts the individual and impacts cognitive behavior in young children, but then through this entire life cycle, you know, it would affect family life, it could affect how we turn up at our workforce and the GDP figures, so to speak. To our listeners, would you want to say anything in terms of either a misconception that people have or something that they should pay attention to?
Misconceptions are many in terms of, like, taking the iron folate tablets, because many times there are myths that if you take the red color tablets and your child will have dark complexion. So there are these kind of myths which are there, and there have been lot of efforts ongoing to promote compliance, to have these T3 camps where you test, treat and also talk about importance of, like, having testing as well as treatment. So these efforts are ongoing. I think it will take a longer time, because earlier this issue of pregnant women not getting tested or pregnant women not taking iron folate tablets was there, but over years now it has become a norm. So similar efforts are needed for other age groups.
As we spoke about it earlier, anemia touches sort of every aspect of life, but anemia is also sort of caused by multiple factors, as you have said.
True.
So, I mean, there's sanitation there, there's education there, there's status, there are also gender norms, right?
Yes.
You're not likely to have green leafy vegetables on a woman's plate
That's
as
true.
often as you may find it on the man's plate. So, I'm wondering whether, how does the strategy of Anaemia Mukt Bharat look at this entire approach from an intersectional lens, from a collaborative lens, from a multi-stakeholder lens?
Yes, I think anemia cuts across multiple factors and also multiple ministries of the government, because it's not just a problem of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, But then water sanitation is very important part. Access to healthcare is very important part. It is very easy for women's collective or self-help groups to propagate these. So again, different ministries can play an important role in this. And also if children in the schools, because schools play an important role in not just treatment of anemia, but also shaping children's diets, because peer pressure is an important concern for especially adolescent girls and boys. So schools do have an important role to play.
This has been such an insightful conversation, Dr. Kulkarni. You've sort of spent more than 2 decades at the National Institute of Nutrition. I just want to close by asking you, what would you sort of look towards the future for? What's a breakthrough that you're expecting, where what seems like a problem that can be solved will be solved?
So throughout my experience, I learned one thing, that there is no silver bullet, or there is no single solution to a problem, and majority of the issues or nutritional problems are multifactorial. Although it looks nutrition, but it's actually to do with overall socioeconomic status, women's gender roles, as well as multiple other factors at higher level which are operating. So that's one, and I think there is a very sort of great sense of optimism with the digital innovations and artificial intelligence making our diagnostics more powerful, and also getting towards more precision based treatment, because one size doesn't fit all is becoming like sort of more accepted. And if we with newer diagnostics, if we go towards more precise treatment, if we are able to identify cause of anemia, because anemia after all is multifactorial. So, but we have been focusing mostly on iron deficiency as of now, because it's the largest cause of anemia. But we know that there are other nutrients which are deficient, there are multiple other reasons. There is also, it's not, anemia is not just nutritional, there are also hemoglobinopathies and other causes of anemia. Recently, National Institute of Nutrition, we have completed a nationwide survey recently, where we have collected samples from more than 2 lakh individuals, and we plan to analyze causes of anemia in a subsample. So, we hope to get more nuanced understanding of underlying causes of anemia, and over time with better diagnostics and more precise treatment, we hope to have much more rapid reduction in anemia. Indian Council of Medical Research is now conducting an implementation research study across different sites in India, where we work with the health systems and develop models of effective interventions which can demonstrate us how to reduce anemia rapidly. So, there is a lot of optimism, and I do hope that in the next say 5 years or so, we will be able to see rapid reduction in anemia.
Okay, on that very optimistic and thoughtful note, thank you so much, Dr. Kulkarni, for sparing this time and for having this conversation with us. It was most insightful, as I said.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Well, with that, it's an end to this episode of ICMR Radio. Remember, every month we are unpacking health research in India. You can go through this entire playlist of videos on our YouTube channel and deep dive into any of that. From our entire team here, thank you for your time.